Okay, well, how I got started was it was back in the 70s. I walked into a Christian bookstore out in the San Fernando Valley, and my best friend actually had been to this Christian bookstore the day before, and he had accepted Christ. And I saw this like complete change in his life. I mean, I went to pick him up the next day for a road trip, and he comes walking out of his house with this big smile, and I thought he was on something. And I said, hey, what's up? And he said, I accepted Jesus yesterday at this little Christian bookstore. So as we're driving to the freeway to go on this road trip, he keeps telling me all about this experience, how this guy was talking to him about Jesus and how he prayed and invited him to come into his heart and all these things. And so as we were driving by this little store, he goes, and that's where I did it. And so the next thing I knew, took my Volkswagen camper van and just pulled right in the parking lot. Walked in. As I walked in, the store owner said, would you like to experience the same thing your friend did yesterday? I kind of thought about it for a second. I thought, well, what the heck, you know? So he said, bow your head and repeat this after me. So he prayed just a very simple sinner's prayer, and I asked Christ to come into my heart, and I walked out of that store thinking, well, that wasn't so hard, and we went on our merry way on this road trip. Well, it was that Sunday night, as we were coming back, God really started dealing with my heart, and he just revealed to me just what a crummy person I was, how much sin was in my life, and just, you know, what really, I just want to say, not a nice person. And so I just broke down and started crying. And my friend said, hey, what's up? And I just said, I just feel so bad inside. And he says, well, that's God trying to, you know, come into your heart. And as we talked about it more, we said, hey, let's go back to that Christian bookstore tomorrow and let's go buy a Bible and talk with that man more about Jesus, you know. So the next morning I go to my college class and I take a piece of sterling silver. I've been making jewelry since I was 15, okay? And something that in my high school they had a little crafts class, and they taught kids how to like solder silver and bend it around and kind of manipulate it, okay? So it was actually one of the few things I did in high school where I was like better than other kids. You know, typically everyone was better than me in everything, okay? But so I kind of turned into my high school's jewelry guy, okay? I took this class every semester. But now I'm out of high school, and anyway, so I go to my college class and I take a piece of silver and I scratch the words Jesus saves on a piece of sterling silver, and then I drill a hole in every letter, and I take a saw and I cut it all out, and I bend it, I solder them together, and I bend it, I take a hammer and I bend it around and I solder it and make this ring, and I walk up to my teacher and I said, hey, what do you think? And he looks at that and he says, you know, that's probably the most uncreative ring you've ever made. And I'm like going, wow, okay, hey, well, don't grade it, sorry. And so I hop in my car and I go over to this little Christian bookstore. And the guy, hey, Bob, how you doing? You know, because I had just prayed with him on Friday to receive Christ. And I said, I'd like to buy a Bible. And he's, you know, back in those days, I could buy a Bible for $2.98. Okay, so I bought my first Bible for $2.98. And he said, hey, would you like to read the first chapter of Matthew? And I said, okay. And so we read Matthew chapter 1. And when we were finished, he said, hey, would you like to come in tomorrow and read chapter 2? And I said, okay, that'd be great. So at 2 o'clock the next day I go in there. And so I went into this little Christian bookstore every day at about 2 o'clock. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, I mean, we went all the way through Revelations, a chapter a day. And we would talk about it, read it, and, you know, talk about how that applied in my life. And that was really where I got my roots, my grounding, if you will, in you know, being a believer, so to speak. And so when I would go into the store, of course, he sees my ring the very first day, and he looks at that, and unlike the teacher who said that was really uncreative, the store owner says, that's very cool. He says, can you make a ring for me and put a cross on one? I said, sure. So, you know, a few days later, I give him his ring, and so every day as customers would come into the Christian bookstore, they would see his ring, and they say, oh yeah, there's a kid that hangs out here. Every day he comes in, reads the Bible about 2 o'clock. You can come in and he'll make anything you want, you know. So I started making rings for people that would say, Jesus loves, Jesus cares, of course, Jesus saves, Maranatha, any kind of Christian back in the early 70s, any kind of Christian thought that anybody would like, I would put it onto a silver ring. And so finally one day And then people would come to my house. I was living out in a little circus wagon out in Calabasas, like a hippie, so to speak, okay? And then I would sit there and I'd think, I wonder who's going to come to my house today, too. You know, it's like, because now it was like the word was spreading, this guy is making these rings, and so people would just walk up. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, this is maybe like after about a year doing this, okay, every day making a Christian ring. And I'm thinking to myself, like, hey, you know, there must be like Christians all around the world that want to express and share their faith. And I don't know if you've ever seen that movie called The Gods Must Be Crazy, but it's where this Coke bottle, there's a guy flying a little airplane across Africa, and he throws a Coke bottle out the window. And when the bottle lands, it lands right next to this native that's sitting there on the ground. And he didn't think that there was anyone else that existed in the world. He thought it was all about him. And then he looks at this Coke bottle and he realizes that there must be other people. You know, there must be other. And it was like, for me, when I had this thought, it was like, wow, you know, it's like, there must be other Christians all around the world, just like there are here in my community, that want to express and share this faith. And so that became my mission. I thought, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend my life making jewelry for believers so they can express and share the message of Jesus Christ. And so that was 41 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. And so that's really what we do, and it's just every day, you know, I make jewelry for believers. And all the jewelry that we make at Bob Siemon Designs, we actually make it right there. If we hand fabricate it, or we will cast it, we'll carve it in wax, and we'll cast it, and we hand polish it. So we make all of our silver jewelry is made right in Santa Ana, California. And we're very proud of the craftsmanship and, you know, the dedication of all the people that work now at the company to accomplish this mission that we have to spread the gospel through our jewelry.